Welcome to the Christy Jones Show. This is your go-to podcast for living life to the fullest. I am a life and empowerment coach, speaker, and business owner in multifamily real estate. I am a woman passionate about helping others build a life that they truly desire. We'll talk about how to make the most out of every day, from setting meaningful goals to embracing the present moment. So join us as we explore the depths of living a life that is full of joy, purpose, and satisfaction. Well, hey, welcome back to another episode of the Christy Jones Show, where I love to talk about all the things to live your life to the fullest. Today's episode is called Full Circle Moments. Full circle moments. I believe we all have them and we experience them. And I want to share with you one of my full circle moments in life, one that was a pretty big one. It was something that has left a lasting impression on me when that full circle moment came to be. And when I'm sharing this story with you, and I'm going to speed through it. I'm going to leave out a lot of details just for the sake of time, just so I can just cut to the chase and give you kind of the meat and potatoes of it, right? But when I share this full circle moment with you, I want you to ponder, have you had some of these in your own life? Or are you waiting for something to finally make sense? Are you waiting for the full circle moment? When I talk about a full circle moment, here's how I describe it. A full circle moment is something, let's say you've got something going on in your life or even internally. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe it's a time you feel very lost and confused. Maybe it's a time that you're really seeking answers or direction. You're praying a lot. You're just, things aren't making sense and you're trying to make sense of things, right? When we try to make sense of crazy parts of life. And so you just get moving forward. Life goes, you make decisions, life moves on. And then fast forward into time, whether it's a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And in case of this story, I'm going to share with you probably 23 years. And it's like you get the aha moment. You get that sense of ease and that sense of peace about why something took place or how you moved through a situation and now it has come full circle. For me, another way I like to describe it, it's like God's way of showing up and shining light and clarity on something, maybe years down the road. And it's like, good job. You did it. You trusted, you had faith. And here's the end result. Things have come full circle. So that's what I mean when I talk about full circle moments. All right, so let me just get started on sharing this full circle moment with you because I woke up, today's Sunday when I'm recording this, and I woke up at like 3 in the morning, 3:30 this morning. And I didn't know what I was going to present this week in the podcast. I had several topics on the table, but I was really undecided on what I was going to talk to you and share with you this week on the podcast. And I woke up at like between 3 and 3:30 this morning, and this was on my mind. And I know that might sound really weird, but have you ever woke up in the middle of the night and then you get clarity? Or you just, you know the answer to the question. It's kind of like the whisper. For me, it's a whisper from God saying, hey, this is what you're supposed to talk about today. And I believe that, and I'm being obedient to that because I feel like it's going to help someone. It's going to serve someone because I've already moved through this story I'm going to share with you. This is something that I already processed and went through and have had all the emotions about. But by sharing this full circle moment with you, like when I woke up and it was like, this is what you're supposed to talk about today. I believe that this is going to land in the headphones that someone's going to be turning on this podcast and it's going to be exactly what they needed to hear. So here's the thing on this particular full circle moment. So I'm going to take you back to, and like I said, I'm going to leave out a lot of moving parts to it just for the sake of time. And I'm just going to give you the meat and potatoes of this story. So I'm going to go back to, it was 1994, 1995, actually. And I'm a new mom. I'm 24 years old. And my husband had moved us to Dallas, Texas. And we're in some pretty tough times. We're in some tough times. If you have followed me or been a part of my community, maybe in my inner circle, some of this you probably have already heard. And I have shared some things with my community. But so at 24, I'm a new mom. We moved to Dallas, Texas, and things are tough. And, I find myself in a really toxic, abusive marriage, just to cut to the chase. Now, didn't start out that way, and they rarely do. They rarely start off that way, but that is exactly what I found myself in. And so I'm living away from friends and family. So I'm feeling pretty isolated. And it's just a really rough predicament situation. Anyways, I did not have my car. Had a really bad car accident and I totaled my vehicle, and I was lucky to survive. And so we were sharing a vehicle. So on the days that I would have the vehicle, again, I've got a lot of the weight of the world on my shoulders. I want to create a good life for my son, myself, a future. I wanted everything to just be fixed, and it wasn't getting fixed. I prayed, I cried. I was a mess. It was really hard. I was seeking answers. So I would, on the days I had the car, or sometimes I took a cab, and there was a playground that I would take my son to, and it was real close to, if you know Dallas, it's SMU, Southern Methodist University. So I go to this playground. I start taking him there when I can. And then the neighborhood, I did not live in this neighborhood. This is a pretty swanky area. Okay. So I would put him in the stroller and we would go for walks, and we would walk the streets of this really beautiful neighborhood. We would walk on campus. I would just to have a different type of surrounding. Why did I take myself there? Because I had to take myself out of the darkness. I had to take myself out of the situation and be in an area where I felt hopeful, if that makes sense. So I load my baby boy up. We go to the park or just to walk around this beautiful campus, which I did not go to college. I went to junior college for a year, but I don't have that traditional college experience. So I'm walking around and I'm just like in awe, like this place is so beautiful. And it was, right nestled up in this neighborhood where I would walk the streets, like I said, and go on walks and just daydream about what life would be like. Like I seem so far removed from what appeared to me are these happy families living on these happy streets and not dealing with the fear and the survival mentality that I was dealing with at that time. And so that university that campus and that neighborhood was like a place of refuge. And I would go, and there was this area close to the football stadium. And I'm trying to think, my son would have been like 8 months old when I started doing this. And there was like this area where you could just look, this grassy area, and he might play there. Or I'd sit on this retaining wall. It was like a brick retaining wall. And I would sit there with, like I said, it was across from the stadium. And it was more just, at the time, it was just a convenient place to, for me to just kind of hang for a while. And I would sit there and watch, students, which quite honestly weren't much younger than me, and I'd watch them walk by with their backpacks and go into class, and it was just an entirely different life than what I was experiencing right then. I Everything that I was thinking about was about the future for myself and my son, and how I could make the right choices, do the right things, so that I was making sure that I was giving him the best life possible. I would daydream about what his life could be, how great it could be, how magnificent it could be. And I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything in my power as his mom to make that happen. Obviously, I felt extremely distraught because and really lost and just really beat down because of the type of relationship and marriage I was in and what was going on there. So my time that I would spend on this campus was really a time of dreaming. It was a time of me visualizing, like I would have my son, we would go on walks. I'd have my jogger stroller. We would walk, we would play on the playground. And then, like I said, I ended up finding this like one little area that seemed to work to where we would hang out. And like I said, it was across from the football stadium. And this is where I began this process of strongly visualizing the future that I wanted for us and what that felt like as I was walking on this campus and in this neighborhood around SMU. Visualized, I visualized us living a prosperous, happy, fulfilling life. I visualized him growing up in just being this magnificent boy going to school, in elementary school, and what that might look like. Because here's the thing, and I know this is going to seem like, well, like, duh. I mean, why is that so profound? If you've ever found yourself in an abusive situation, in a toxic scenario, over time, it will tear you down. It will mentally, it just tears you apart. It beats you down little by little by little each and every day. And so what seems like really like practical things become really hard to think that that's still possible for you. If you've been in a situation like that, you're getting what I'm saying. Like you're sitting here nodding, going, yes, 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 I get it. If you haven't, I get it. Like it's really hard to understand. And I get it because I never really understood it until I found myself there. So I understand that it might seem hard to be able to see it through that lens. But things that seem normal, all of a sudden become very far removed. It's like you start to lose hope that even like the basic things that you used to think would be, that you start to lose hope that if that's even possible. And I would talk with God and I would pray, and I would pray for wisdom and strength. And all I wanted in those moments, all I wanted is that I would be able to, I had been given the responsibility of being a mother. It was like the biggest responsibility I had ever, I was 23 when I had him, 24. I was like, I took it so seriously, like most parents do, right? But I wanted to be able to give him every opportunity in the world to whoever he is to become, that he has that opportunity to do that. I prayed. That's what I prayed for. Prayed every single day for wisdom, for guidance, for clarity. And I was getting nothing. I mean, I felt so on an island. So when I'm at this university, like, this is what's going on in my head, right? I'm really visualizing and seeing what could be possible. Like, I could live on a street like this. I could recreate, our life, that God's going to help me figure out what I'm supposed to do. So being on that campus was just the place. It was just the place that I went to because it was so beautiful and it was so different than the life I was living at the time. So fast forward to 2000, let's say 2015. I'll tell that first. Fast forward to 2015. My son is obviously, life has, I did get a divorce. And I did start to rebuild my life from the ground up. And I did find the perfect partner for us to build our life together. We got married, we had our family. But let's fast forward to 2015. Now my son is in college. He's going to college. He's playing college football. He's a student athlete at the University of Tulsa, Division I football in the American Athletic Conference. And, I didn't know what all schools were in that conference when he started going there. So in 2015, I think it's his sophomore year, we're going to an away game, and the away game is at SMU. And keep in mind, I hadn't been there since 1995, I think was the last time I was there. And so honestly, my husband and I, we go down for the away game, and I'm just going to be real. Like, I had a lot of anxiety about being back in the Dallas area. It just gave me a lot of unsettling feelings that I didn't even know were going to come up. But 2015, we went to a game, and I honestly just focused on going to the game, focusing on what was in front of me, not letting a lot of old stuff come up. And again, it was only because it was familiar surroundings, like different things were like, wow, I can't believe I used to be, walking, this is where I used to come and, and like I said, walk the streets and see the neighborhood and, play in the park nearby and so on and so forth. So then in 2017, it's a senior year. And that year we're back at SMU. And life is, really flourishing, thriving. Life feels good in so many ways, on so many levels. So we go in 2017, his team, Tulsa, is playing SMU. Like I said, it's a senior year. And all year I knew that he's a kicker. And starting into his senior year, I remember him saying that, or reading that he was approaching the record for being the all-time leading scorer for the university. And so anyways, we're moving through. This is in October, end of October, we're at the game, SMU. And at that time, I'm, just like, it's so, how wonderful it is to be back here in such a different way, in such a different space in life. So I talk about like full circle moment, right? Are you following me? So full circle moment. Never thought I would be back there. I mean, for any reason. So anyways, 2 field goals into the game, someone in the stands, like, I remember her tapping me on the shoulder. She's like, oh my gosh, she saw something come across her phone. She said, that last field goal, now he's the all-time leading scorer at the university. He's the record, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my, and so there was a little talk going on in the stands, and my heart was just so happy for him. Like, I was just so proud. I was just like, what a really beautiful, fun, exciting moment. And, he's obviously down on the sidelines, so he probably wasn't even thinking about that. It was a mom thing, right? It's a parent thing. But my heart was so full. Um, I was just so happy for him. So happy for him. So after the game, we get out of the stadium, and generally, you know where to go meet the players as they come out of the locker room before they get on the bus to head to the airport. And and it's freezing cold. It's so cold that night. So we're standing there, and all of us parents are kind of, gathered outside of the area of the visitor locker room when they waiting for the players to come out. And as I'm standing there waiting for him to come out, where we were standing, and it was me and my husband and, some of the other football parents, our friends. I'm standing there and I look to my left, and I kid you not, where we were standing to greet the players to come out. I get choked up every time I tell this story. I don't ever really tell this story, but it still hits me. I look over to my left and I see the retaining wall. Remember that retaining wall that I talked about, that where I would go and hang out with him as a baby, lost, confused, praying, seeking wisdom and guidance, and just wanting to know how to get out of this dark situation I was in. That's where I was hanging out, right there. Like, it was right there. And I looked over there and I was like, oh my gosh, that's where that is where I used to sit and hope and dream and try to work through everything, visualize this amazing life that I want for my son. And I was sitting right there and staring at this stadium, had no idea that, 23 years later, I was going to be standing right there, waiting for my son to come out of the locker room, congratulating him as the all-time leading scorer record holder now at his university. And that was a surreal moment. That was a full circle moment. I remember turning to a couple of the parents. Of course, I said something to Steve. And I remember turning to a couple of the parents, and I just went, "You're never going to believe this." And I shared it with Stephanie, and I shared it with the Shipleys. They were standing there, and I mean, they're just like, they're getting all teary, but I'm just like, right there, right here. This is where I would sit there and hold him and dream and hope and pray. Like, right there. And then here I am 23 years later, and I'm standing here, and life has turned out so amazing. And my husband's standing there with me. Then I see my son come out of the locker room, and we just have this really awesome moment. Hug him. I'm so proud of him, so excited for him. It's just something that he worked really hard for. I mean, it was such a special moment. And he has no idea that 23 years earlier, I was standing just feet away from where we're standing right now, hoping, praying, asking God to show me what to do, show me how to fix this, help me be the best mom, help me give the best life that's possible for my son so he can, get on his way, create his own life. It was so full circle. That is a really, um, that is a moment that you almost don't know what to say. At least I didn't, except thank you. Thank you, and thank you, God. To share that moment privately with just a few friends, they had no idea. They had no idea of the beginning. And to share that with them, I think they got more emotional than I was at the time. But it was a complete full circle moment. So he ends up, he actually was still in uniform when it came out. And then he goes in and showers and so on and so forth. So normally the team gets on the plane right after games and they head back, they fly back. And it was a late night game. So I forget, it was, I don't know, 9-10 o'clock at night, maybe when it was over. Freezing cold again. And he had asked his coach, since it was, a monumental thing and such a big event, he'd asked if he could stay behind with his family and he would fly back in the morning. And I think his coach approved it. He said that was fine. You just had to be at team breakfast and team workouts in the morning. So that meant like, I don't know, first flight out. It was really early when he left. It was really nice. So it was really nice of his coach to allow that and approve that, because that never happens. I mean, they just go stay with the team, get on the plane and fly back. And so we hung out with his dad and I, and we just got to have time as a family, and it was really fun back at the hotel, just kind of soaking in the moment and just, listening to each other talk and just having that moment together as a family. It was really, it meant the world to me. It meant the absolute world to me. So the next morning, oh gosh, it was dark when he got up to catch his flight. And I said, I'll take you to the airport in the morning, and went to Dallas Love Field. We were at a hotel really close to SMU. And so we're in the car and I'm driving from the hotel, and we drive right by the football stadium. And for some reason, it was early morning, so light the light, but it was dark, but the stadium lights were on. So it had that really beautiful glow that you see come out of a stadium. And we're driving by, so there's the glow of the stadium. And then we are driving through the neighborhood. I'm just using the map thing on my phone. I don't know where I'm going. And we cut through the neighborhood and make our way through kind of that residential area around SMU to get over to Dallas Love Field. And of course, it's early, so we're not a lot of, moms, we love to talk to our adult kids all the time, right? So, but I know it's early, so I'm going to keep it on the down low. I'm not going to like talk his ear off. I was just counting my blessings that he got to stay and have some extra time with his dad and I at the hotel. And so we're driving through this neighborhood, and I'm thinking, this is amazing that these are the roads that I used to put him in that jogger stroller and walk the neighborhood streets and dream and hope and pray that I could get us on our way so he could have a life that he could make it whatever he chose, that he had options and possibility. And I knew back then we didn't have options and possibilities. We had fear. We had we had we had everything opposite of possibility. And so driving through that neighborhood, I'm just thinking, this is crazy. It's a beautiful early morning. And here I am now with my adult son going on some of these same streets, only now we're in a car. And I'm taking him to the airport so he can fly back to his university so he can be with his team and get there on time for all the events that they do the day after the game. And life is so beautiful and it's so different than it was 23 years ago. And it has seriously come full circle. And so it was like God's way of like saying, hey, I always had you. I always had you in the palm of my hand. So as I dropped him off at the airport, of course, I know all these back details. He doesn't. So as I wave by and he's like, see ya. No, he was very sweet. He was, he's one of the most thoughtful humans. One of the most thoughtful humans, for sure. And we said goodbye and he heads off. So I'm driving back to the hotel and I stop at the stadium and I park somewhere random. And I went back and I sat on that wall. Sorry. I went back and I sat on that wall and I just like took in how amazing these full circle moments can be. So you don't know if they're going to take 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, or 23 years. But trust me, when you experience a full circle moment, it is the most amazing thing. You will just be like so moved and you will have so much clarity. You will have so many answers to things that maybe you didn't have answers for before. It's like when you're putting a puzzle together and, there's always those last 2 or 3 pieces that drive you bonkers that you're like, I can't figure out where this goes. I'm just so stumped. And then eventually all the pieces of the puzzle come together and you take a breath and you're like, oh, that's how it goes together. That's kind of how a full circle moment feels. It's like things from the beginning start to make sense. And the full completion of that full circle moment, the reason it's so freaking wonderful and it holds so much meaning is because you can think back to the beginning and you see the big picture. It's like moving forward and then now you're looking back and you're like, oh, I get it. So I think for this particular story and full circle moment, a couple of things. One, they're like, yeah, well, I mean, some people might say, oh, it's just a coincidence, that happened. I mean, that's totally fine if you feel that way. I can tell you without a doubt, I know that it was 100% lined up to be that particular school at that particular time. I know that was divinely orchestrated. I mean, he could have easily become the all-time leading scorer for the University of Tulsa at the game before or the game after, which was, I don't even remember where those, I don't remember where the game before, what game we were playing. That would have been a home game, I think. The game after, I don't know. I don't know what city that would have been in, but it wouldn't have had the same effect. God knew that that had to happen. Well, he already knew ahead of time that all that was going to happen, probably 23 years earlier, unbeknownst to me. And so it could have happened at any other university. It could have happened at any other game. 2 games before, the game we had the week before. It could have happened 2 games later. It could have happened the last game of the season. I don't know. But it happened at that game, at the SMU stadium, to where when he came out of the locker room where that's situated, it's feet away from the area that I used to hold him and cradle him and talk to him and play with him and pray and dream and try to figure out what I was going to do, how I was going to do it. I prayed God would just show me. And I wasn't getting like a hard, direct answer back then. So it was divinely orchestrated that that's where it would take place. That really fun, incredible moment would happen that night at that stadium at that specific time with those specific friends standing around me, because I felt very supported. I felt very, very supported by them. They were so kind. They were so kind. So on my way back to the hotel, that's where I sat. I had some words with God, and I was so thankful. I was so thankful. And I was like, that's what this is. This is that full circle moment. And I'm so glad I was patient. I'm so glad I was obedient. I'm so glad. I'm so, so glad. So it was such a cool moment. It was really, really a cool moment to be in entirely different space of life. To the young child that I used to hold right there, and I was scared and confused and lost and just wanted to do the right thing so badly, just didn't know what that was. To now, my son was a young man. He was a man. He was a grown man. He was 23 years old, doing amazing things in his own life. I tell you what, that feels so good. That feels so good. And that was the full circle moment. So I hope that by me sharing this, even though I've gotten a little emotional when I've been doing this episode, which I don't normally do, but I think that obviously, I mean, this is what I was supposed to share. I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning and it was like, you need to talk about full circle moments and you need to tell that story. I was like, really? I don't know if I can keep my strong face and do that. But I want you to hear this, and I want you to know that if you're, first of all, if you're waiting for something to make sense, if you're waiting for like that full circle moment, it will come. Be patient. It will come. Don't lose hope. Do not lose hope. If that's you and you're like, I don't know, like I relate to some of what you were saying, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's going to happen for me. It will happen for you. Stay open. Stay hopeful. seek guidance, pray, stay the course. And if you've had a full circle moment, I would so love to hear one of yours. I would so love to hear one of yours, because I think that they are so good for our soul. They are so good for our soul. They feel so good. It brings closure. It brings clarity. It just feels good. So if you have a full circle moment that you would like to share with me, I would so love to hear it. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Please like and share the episode and the podcast. It means the world to me. And if you feel like this story and this particular episode needs to be shared with someone that you know, a friend, a family member, whoever that might be, please share it and pass it along. I also want to give a very big word of encouragement if you are a woman in an unsafe situation, in a relationship to where you know you need help. There are so many options for you to seek counsel and to seek help. So don't feel like you're alone, because I know you feel like you're alone. I get it. It's a very, very lonely spot to be in, but you're not alone. And there is a way. There is a way. Do not give up hope. Stay the course, my friend. All right. I will see you guys next week. Have the best week and go live your life fully. All right. Take care. We'll talk soon.